First off, you should have the paper that has this on it, TP-CASTT. And I said, has anybody seen this before or heard of this before? And most of you said no, or just didn't raise your hand. Do you need one still? I think they will put them back there at my desk. The TP-CASTT is basically a way of trying to get more into detail about learning poetry. And each one of those letters stands for something, and that's what I put over here in this corner of the board. The handout that you have has a lot more detail on it, explaining it in much, much greater detail. But just the basics of it I've put up here on the board. So if you want to also write this down beside it, you can. The first T stands for title. Basically what that means is you read the title of the poem before you read the poem, and you think, what does this mean to me already, before I even start reading the poem? If we're using this poem, Bronx Masquerade, as an example, we could say, okay, the Bronx, that's a place in New York. Masquerade has something to do with costume party, people wearing masks. Because we talked a little bit about that before we started with the book. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
We're already done with the first letter. Cool, right? Next one's a little bit more. Paraphrase. P stands for paraphrase. What does paraphrase usually mean? Go ahead. Sounded like you were starting to say the right thing. It means putting it into your own words. It means you read the words, you think, what does this mean to me just normally? You're putting it in your own words. So, the poem over there, it says, I woke up this morning exhausted from hiding. Okay? He woke up, he was tired. Anybody else ever been tired first thing in the morning when you wake up? Yes. Oh, exactly. Who's not? So anyway, you're just kind of putting it into your own words. You remember a couple weeks ago when we started with poetry, and I said, the first time you read it just for the sound of it, the feel of it. Second time you read it more for meaning. Third time you read it looking more for like those clue words and things like, those poetry terms, alliteration and rhyme and all of that. And then the last time you read it for meaning. The TP-CASTT is kind of the same thing. So this is basically reading it the first time through, just reading it for, do I understand what all of the words are? So, I woke up, I was tired, the me of me might have a question mark next to that if I'm doing line by line. So I stand here confiding. What does the word confiding mean?
Thinking?
If I tell you something in confidence, what does that mean?
Confidential.
Secret.
Confidential and secret, yes. Excellent. So I stand here confiding. It means that I'm telling you, but I'm kind of telling you like it's a secret. There's more to Devon, well, we know that that's the author's name, than jump shot and rim. We also know jump shot is like the nickname that everybody's given it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Also jump shot, rim, that's basketball terms. So we could write basketball out to the side. I'm more than tall and lengthy of limb. Okay, so we've got long arms, long legs. I dare you to peep behind these eyes. What does the word peep mean?
See a little thing.
It means to see something. It's similar to peek, like, looking around the corner at something or looking at something that's in secret. And it's also just a slang word that means to look at something, right? Discover the poet and tough guy disguise. We might want to write next to the word disguise what that means. Like a mask, hiding something, hiding someone. Don't call me jump shot, my name is surprise. So we've read it through one time, kind of putting pieces of it into our own words. Do you have to necessarily say after every line what that line means? No. You can do it line by line. You could do it stanza by stanza. You could do it a group of 3 or 4 lines at a time, a sentence at a time. However you break it up. All you've got to do is try to put it into your own words. Make sense so far?
Yes, sir.
So we've done T, P, next is C. Cast. Sorry. C for connotation. Connotation means that you're looking at the different meanings, the deeper meanings on things. Every year my 8th graders say, I don't know that word. But you've probably been taught it before. But if you don't remember, here's a really good example of what I mean by it. If I say house, What is it that you think of when I say the word house?
Home.
Home?
Something you live in?
Something you live in. Good. Something you live in. It's a building, right?
Start a company.
According to the dictionary, the word home means the same thing. The dictionary definition, or denotative meaning, which I'm not going to quiz you on that one because it's not as important, it says that it means the same thing. But when I say the word home, what do you think of? More and more people start thinking of things like family, where I feel safe, where I feel loved, where I go whenever I want to instead of I have to. There's a lot of extra meanings that go with the word home. House kind of just means the building. Home has more of a sense of you belong there, right? Or at least I hope it does, it should. When you have to move from one house to another, it takes a little bit of time before that new house becomes home, doesn't it? Sometimes it never does. I lived in probably 5 or 6 different houses that never stayed long enough to actually feel like it was home. When I talk about home now, I talk about where I was for middle school and high school. I don't really talk about my dad's house anymore. I lived there for 7 years. It was my first home, but it's not really home anymore. So home has that extra layered meaning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to our poem, if we're looking for connotative meanings in the poem, we're looking for those deeper meanings. And when we talk about notice and note, that's kind of what you're doing with stories and poetry and nonfiction and everything else. You're looking for that deeper meaning, that deeper understanding. So when he says, exhausted from hiding the me of me, we know that he's exhausted of hiding himself, hiding who he really is on the inside. We get that, we understand that more. We're just doing paraphrase, we're not looking deeper into that. Now we're looking a little deeper at understanding it better. Luke, can you put that down, please? Same thing with the word confiding. Confiding simply means to say something, but if we look at the connotative meaning, we get that whole secret idea from it. Confiding is like sharing a secret, or the word confidential that's related to it. Jump shot and rim says there's more to Devon than jump shot and rim. We already know that he's talking basketball terms, but that deeper meaning, he's called jump shot, and that comes back down here again too. So we're getting the deeper meaning when we read through it this time. And this is what, our second time reading through? Okay. Any questions so far? The next letter is A for attitude. Attitude is for mood and tone. Sometimes you can see some of the attitude while you're looking at the connotation, while you're looking at those special meaning words. Like the word exhausted. Instead of just tired, it's exhausted. You ever feel so tired at the end of the day because you've been pretending to be someone else?
Nope.
Pretending to be what everybody wants you to be?
Nope.
Man, I was exhausted all the time growing up. I always had to be like the good kid at school, and then I'd go home and be absolutely horrible to my sister.
Nope. I'm not horrible to my sister. She is
Oh,
garbage.
my sister and I used to get in fights, would punch each other, would slap each other, would throw each other stuff. Oh yeah, well she'd slap me too.
For real, real life.
You're not supposed to hit a girl.
I don't care.
My sister is not a girl. It's my sister.
Oh, then hit the guy dressed as a girl. I understand.
Okay. But yeah, at school everybody thought I was just the best student ever. You know, he's so smart, he's so polite, he's so everything, and I'd go home and all that's gone. Because I was tired. It's exhausting to be somebody else. It's exhausting to pretend to be something like that. And that's why 5th grade and 6th grade, when I stopped being the perfect student, I got in trouble a lot. Okay. But anyway, we've got those special words like exhausted. That gives us more of the emotion that goes with it. We've got, I dare you. Wow. It's not I challenge you, or I hope that you. It's I dare you. It's a whole lot stronger, isn't it?
Sure, why not?
Right, that chewing gum's going to fall out of my mouth while I'm teaching, and I'll get it on film. Okay,
What?
so I dare you is definitely a whole lot more emotional, a whole lot more charged for that mood and that tone. Do you get the sense that he's daring us, that he's frustrated about something, and he's challenging us in some way to think about it in a different way? Because that's kind of the mood and the tone that we should be feeling just from that one word. Here's the next part, shift. This is the part that 8th graders think that they don't understand until they start to notice this is in almost every poem. A shift simply means that it's a change. The poem started going in one direction, you started to think about it in one particular way, and then all of a sudden it turns and it does something different. Something unexpected. There's like a plot twist near the end of the poem. Sometimes it's about halfway, sometimes it's further towards the bottom. Sometimes it's in the last line, sometimes it's just a line or two before the end. But it's kind of like the climax of a short story. It's a sudden shift, a sudden change that really gets a lot of the attention. In this one, can you find where this shift would be?
The shift when he says, I dare you to pee.
It does start right there where it says, I dare you. Because that mood and that tone changed. It shifted. But an even stronger shift is probably these last two lines. And that first word, don't, that probably is the one thing that signifies, hey, there's going to be a change right here. It means don't continue to do what you've done. It's time to change and do something else. And that's kind of what he's saying with this poem. Don't keep calling me jump shot. I want to be known for who I am instead. Sorry, I skipped ahead just a little bit. Another example of a shift. Do you remember Tyrone's poem in the book?
Yes,
You got to the very, no, that was Rawls. Tyrone's was the one that started off just kind of like calling attendance, calling names of everybody in the room. And then it's talking about all this stuff in the world that he's angry about. And at the end of it, it said, take 2 poems and call me in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
That shift was right there at the end, wasn't it? Wesley's poem at the beginning didn't have much of a shift. Raoul's poem had a little bit of a shift near the end, at the bottom of the Z, but not a whole lot. It's one that a lot of people don't really notice. What about Deandra's poem? If I painted watercolor, if I drew you in charcoal, if I did all of this, if I did all of this, you get to the end and it's got that last line, would you laugh at me? I wonder. Just that one last little line, those 2 words, that was a very definite shift. It was a change in the pattern. And changes in patterns in poetry attract our attention, and that's what they're trying to do when they do that. So he's trying to get our attention a little bit by saying, I dare you. He's getting our attention a lot more down here with don't call me jump shot. Does that make sense to you? That they make that shift to try to get attention? In a moment, I know what you're asking.
What?
I know what you're asking, because you asked me earlier. Alright. When you get to the bottom, T is for title. Yes, we already did title up here, but now we're going back to the title again. Now that we've looked at the poem, we've thought about what it means, what does the title mean now? It might mean something a little different from what it meant earlier. Bronx Masquerade. Well, we still know Bronx is New York, it's where he lives. But now we're looking at masquerade and we're thinking, wearing a mask, hiding, got the word hiding that goes with it. We've got confiding, that like secret that goes with it. Disguise goes with it. And then at the end of a masquerade ball, when they would all take off their mask and surprise everybody with who they really were, we've got that down here with surprise again. So now that we've looked at it and we've thought about it, and we've thought about everything else that's going on in this poem, now we see, oh, he's talking about how he's a different person. He's a different person than what people think he is. He's a different person than what he knows everybody thinks he is. Everybody sees him as this dumb jock, basketball star, and that's it. But he says there's more to me than that. I don't think he's dumb at all, do you? No, I don't think so. The last T is for theme. This is the overall meaning. When you're reading short poems like this, you've probably already gotten to the theme. You probably don't have to read it 4 whole times and then get to it. But all of the rest of this added together, I could write it like an algebraic expression, but let's not. But all of this stuff added together is how you get to the theme. You get to the overall meaning. So we've already basically said the overall meaning. He's tired of being somebody he's not really. He dares people to realize that there's more to him than that. And he hopes that he can surprise them someday by standing up and showing them who he really is and what kind of person he really is. Overall theme, if I wanted to simplify it, it was something like, don't judge a book by its cover. Oh, that's boring to use old cliches, right?
Real life.
But it's kind of what it is, right? Don't judge me by what you see me as. Right? Okay. I wanted us to do this poem kind of as an example, stepping through it. Now I want you to look at Devon's next poem, and I don't have a book. I think it was page 84. The name of the poem is Black Box. Let's see if I was right on the page number. Right, page 84. Because I'm awesome, right? Alright,
Keep saying.
look at page 84. Also continues a little bit on page 85. I want you to look at this poem for a moment in your groups, and that's why I've got you in 4 separate groups. I want you to step through the TP-CASTT process with this. So on your paper that said the description of what TP-CASTT stood for, turn to the back, put your name at the top, and next to T where it says title, I want you to write black box, and tell me what you think a black box is before you start reading the poem. With your group, try to go through every step, and then we'll share together and see what we think the black box poem is all about. Page 84. In just a moment. Go ahead and stand up, but in just a moment. All right, any questions what you're supposed to do? All right, you can stop the video.